Okay, students, so here are the explanations for these words that we're going to be using a lot for this module and this section. We used this before, y-intercept. If you remember, this is the y-axis, this is the x-axis, and therefore the y-intercept is the point where it crosses the y-axis. Before we were talking about linear equations, so the point where it crosses the y-axis looks like this, but now we're dealing with parabolas. So parabola will still have a similar look, but it could have, it could be here, it could be here, you know, it could be here. Whatever it is the point where the parabola crosses the y-axis. Super obvious. Great. The other one is the x-intercept, so therefore is the point where it crosses the x-axis. Again, this is a y-axis, this is the x-axis. This parabola, for example, does not cross the x-axis, so it does not have x-intercepts. This parabola crosses the x-axis also here and here. And this parabola, again, does not cross the x-axis. So something interesting with parabolas is that it can have two x-axis. You could also have one if it, if the vertex is right there at the x-axis. It could have one x-axis or it could have none, like we saw with these two. Versus a line will always have an x-axis because they go on into infinity usually. So at some point they will cross the x-axis. But anyways, just remember, y-intercept crosses the y-axis, x-intercept crosses the x-axis, and it's usually 2 for a parabola. Okay, great. Now let's move on to axis of symmetry. So like we said, axis, we just said the y-axis and the x-axis. So an axis is, we could call it a line. And what is symmetry? Symmetrical. That means it's the same on both sides. So most parabolas can be cut in half and they have the same shape on both sides. That is the axis of symmetry. The axis of symmetry also goes through the vertex. Okay? So the axis of symmetry is a line, a vertical line, and the equation of an axis of symmetry is usually x equals a number. If you remember from the last module of S linear equations where you had to graph a line, a vertical line and a horizontal line, x equals a number is a vertical line and y equals a number is a horizontal line. Do you guys remember that? Yeah, you probably forgot by now, but it's okay. Anyway, so the axis of symmetry is the line that cuts the parabola in half. That doesn't look like one, but you can imagine it. Yeah, it's like the parabola is nice and cut evenly and it goes right through the vertex. Okay, so that brings up the last vocabulary word, which is vertex. Vertex is the point, the tip of the parabola or the bottom of the parabola, because if you remember, the parabola can also go like this. So it would be the bottom part. So it's also the point where, here it's going down. So the point where it starts going up again, that inflection point is called a vertex. Okay, so those are the definitions of these words. I think you guys got this. Okay, guys, so if it's not obvious by now, quadratic equations, which is what we were working with before, look like this. And when you graph them into the XY plane, they look like a parabola. The shape that they make is a parabola. Versus y equals mx plus b, when you graph that, it's going to make the shape of a straight line. So that's all you need to know for this one.